people, and welcome to Tema Talks. I'm glad to have you here with me. Tema Talks, of course, is brought to you by the Tema Conter Memorial Trust. They are Canada's leading provider of peer support, family assistance, education, and training for all of our emergency services, public safety, military personnel, and their families. So go check them out at tema.ca. Also, the views, opinions, and endorsements expressed in each podcast episode are mine and my guests alone, and do not necessarily reflect the official position of the Tema Conter Memorial Trust. All right, how are you guys doing? I'm doing okay. I've had my ups and downs, like I'm sure you have, like everybody has, as humans. But I'm getting through it. I'm trying to use the tools that I have learned, because as I said before, tools are great, but if you don't use them, they don't work. Before listening to this episode, make sure you get yourself in a good mind space. This is your trigger alert. Obviously, there's going to be some topics expressed in this conversation that may be troubling to some of our listeners. So if you are susceptible to being triggered, if you have trigger issues, just make sure you do whatever it is that you need to do to get yourself in a good headspace in order to listen to the podcast and get the most out of it. Because that's the point. After you listen to the podcast, if you liked what you heard, please share the episode. Also, take a second to comment, leave some feedback, leave a review, rate us if you're able to do that on however you listen. I know you can on Apple Podcasts. Give us a rating. It really helps us get the podcast out there to more listeners. So please take an extra second and do that. That would be awesome. My guest this episode is Naomi Fox. If you don't know Naomi, you're about to. She is a paramedic and artist from Calgary, and recently went on a journey of 100 portraits in 100 days as part of her Paramedics Call to Action. So let's learn more about that. Let's get to it.
It was a dark and stormy night, nor'easter rolling in.
Welcome to Tema Talks, Naomi. Thank you for taking the time and coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. I know we've been talking about doing this for a while. I'm glad that we finally were able to make it happen.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. I'm excited to have you on. I've seen, obviously, I saw you on social media, on Facebook, in regards to your Paramedics Call to Action, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. But first, what I'd like to know, because I don't know you very well, and our listeners may not either, just tell us a little bit about yourself, how you grew up and what got you involved in EMS.
Sure. So I grew up in Calgary, Alberta. I think kind of how I almost fell into EMS. It wasn't ever my plan, I don't think.
Right.
However, I always liked swimming, so I was quite a strong swimmer. As a teenager, one of my first jobs was a lifeguard. So I kind of got the life-saving bug way back then, I think. But art was always my first love, and I went to art college down in Los Angeles, actually.
Oh.
And then, I didn't end up finishing my degree because I ended up becoming a mom during that degree. But so I decided I didn't want to be an artist and a single mom. So I kind of moved back to Calgary, and I was personal training, and I had to recert my first aid, and the place I did it at offered the EMR course. I was like, oh, maybe this is something I would be interested in, and I took my EMR course, and then my EMT, and then I became a medic. So it just kind of happened.
Nice. Now, so what year was it that you started working as a medic?
2009. So
2009. Okay.
Almost
great.
a decade. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, what do you remember from your first days working as a paramedic? When did it sort of settle in for you, the weight of that job that you can't be prepared for?
For me, I think it was kind of a gradual process. Like I always took what we do very seriously.
Right.
But I think I loved the adrenaline of it at the beginning. And I just had way more energy. I was younger as well. and a lot less physical and, injuries and other stuff going on. So I just, it didn't seem to take as much out of me. Definitely by 2014, about 5 years in, I was definitely feeling the effects of shift work and the heaviness of the calls, the volume of the calls, and all that.
Now, so when looking back, what do you remember about, before because you were diagnosed with PTSD in 2014, right?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, so before your diagnosis, if you could think back to before then, what were you experiencing? Like, how did you, come to realize that something was wrong?
I like I said, it was kind of a gradual process, I think. But what the biggest thing for me that was kind of my biggest flag was I've always had trouble sleeping, but my sleep stopped. I was having really bad nightmares when I did sleep, as well as, incorporated aspects of personal life as well. Because I don't believe that our lives are, compartmentalized the way that they would, WCB or something would like it to be.
Right.
It's not like work alone, I think, contributed to my injury. I think, your whole life impacts you.
Yeah.
So there's definitely aspects of everything kind of in it. And so I was having those nightmares. When I did sleep, I wasn't sleeping much. And then I started having suicidal thoughts. So that's when I finally kind of sought help.
And was it at that point in time when you did that, were there good avenues to help for you?
If I'm totally honest, I think that the help that I was forced to have,
right.
If anything, it actually made it worse.
Okay.
The program that they put me through just wasn't a fit for me. I guess I also started to isolate, and going out was hard. Mm-hmm. So I found, they forced me to go, I think it was 4 days a week to this program, and I found the time very overwhelming, as well as just, having to be in like multiple sessions of counseling all day. That just wasn't the right process for me.
Right.
And then just forced me back to work. So.
Okay. All right. And so after that, you obviously went through that, and which wasn't a very positive experience for you. What did you get involved with, or when did you start to see some improvement for you?
2014 was also the year that I really kind of went back to my art and kind of gave my life over to painting and taking that time for myself to be creative. I was done all of my schooling. My daughter was now in like full-time school as well. So when I had a day off that landed on her school days, I finally, for the first time ever, it felt like I finally had time for myself to kind of invest in things that interested me.
Right.
And painting has definitely been very healing for me.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see how how that you would have that from art. And did you find that just the process of doing your art allowed you to, to reprocess bad memories or to sort of work through the issues?
Definitely. There is times that, I felt like I could sometimes use art and it would almost, I could put anything on a canvas, and even if it came out ugly because I was angry or hurting or sad or whatever, if it came out horrible, I could then cover that and make whatever I was making or whatever those emotions were into something beautiful. And for me, that kind of physical transformation on the canvas definitely was also happening within me. It definitely, it wasn't just like an uphill climb. There's been peaks and valleys, and there's times that my PTSD still can be debilitating.
Oh, absolutely. What else do you do I mean, obviously you have your art, which is huge. What else do you do personally for self-care and self-maintenance, some routines that you've built in to help you?
So meditation and yoga are essential for me. The yoga, partially for kind of mindfulness, but also for keeping my body healthy and moving. And I've had a lot of physical injuries, some kind of personal, again, some at work.
Yes.
And the toll on my body is, I'm just in pain all the time. And yoga, above everything else, for me personally, has been my biggest source of pain relief when I do it consistently. And then meditation as well has been hugely beneficial to me, just to, we're so used to being go, 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 and to actually take that time to be quiet and to let those thoughts and let those feelings come up. And to realize that sometimes, whether it be in yoga or meditation, you don't always have to feel happy. Like, I remember talking to one of my yoga teachers, a good friend of mine, Teresa Coulter. I think she's been on your show too.
She has. She's awesome. She's the one who introduced me to yoga and got me to focus on meditation and yoga. And I'm still working at it, and I'm not. It's pretty horrific still, my yoga, but I definitely do know that after I finish even like a little 10-minute, online yoga routine, that I do feel great afterwards. It is awesome. I will say that.
No, it definitely is. But so she was running this thing called Yoga 911. So it was yoga for first responders. And I was in one of those classes, and she comes up to me after one of the classes. She's like, "How was it?" And she's always so vibrant and excited or whatever. And I was like, "Not good. Like, I feel angry." I felt rage, and I felt mad and horrible and whatever. And not that I needed permission, but she just she validated those feelings and said that, through yoga or meditation or whatever, we're not always doing it just to feel happy. We're bringing to surface some of those events that are going on. And so if you're able to access some of those points of deep sorrow or pain or whatever, then we're actually doing the work. Generally I feel great, but there's definitely times that it brings to surface hard stuff too.
Yeah, I've experienced that, for sure, and it's just stuff that you have to work through, and it'll keep coming up until you work through it correctly. I find it doesn't go away until then, and even then it doesn't really go away, but you're able to deal with it. It doesn't cause you the issues that it did before.
Right.
So, how I first got introduced to you was on Facebook, and I saw these articles about you doing this paramedics call to action.
Yes.
Explain how that started and where that came from and what it is.
Okay, well, it came from a meditation.
Okay.
So that was where the idea came from. I was meditating one day, and this idea just it was nagging. It wouldn't let go. And with lots of scary things, we like to brush it off and be like, oh, I don't know, like 100 portraits. I hadn't even done that in my artistic career yet. Like 100
that's a lot.
is actually is a significant amount. I had definitely painted portraits, but not 100. And then also with the time commitment of, every single day, so not having a day off for over 3 months.
Right.
It would have been easier to ignore, but I also had to deal with kind of some struggles that I was having with the system of EMS here in Calgary, but also, I hear other services are going through similar struggles.
Yeah. And
essentially I had to kind of start to reflect on the way things were being run. And here in my city, we go call to call to call to call for at least 12 hours. Generally there is overtime. So, those shifts easily can be 14, 15 hours.
Oh, for sure.
We also have commute times like most people. So, your day sometimes is now maybe getting up to even 16 hours. We were taking a driving course at work, and they started talking about fatigue and how after, I believe it was 10 hours, that, your fatigue can be equivalent to intoxication from alcohol or drugs or whatever. And so I started thinking about that and the way that we were working and not having time to physically rest, to nourish our bodies, but also no time to decompress on some of these significant calls.
Right.
And I had to start thinking about at what point does fatigue become negligence? Because I'm not a negligent practitioner, but I could start to see or foreshadow, I guess, a tragic outcome. Driving lights and sirens is an activity that's high risk for any first responder.
Right.
And then you compound that with, multiple hours of fatigue or not eating and high stress, bad weather or whatever. And now you have, just an exponential increase, I believe, in risk to the practitioners and to the public at large, in addition to the medical procedures that we participate in or medications that we give or whatever. There's little to no medical oversight. There's no one really generally checking our work except for us or a partner. And if things happen quickly, sometimes, if we're honest, that doesn't happen either. So if we make a medication error or take a corner too fast or whatever could happen, I started to believe that if things didn't change, I can see devastating results.
Yeah, absolutely. So you decided to it's 100 portraits in 100 days, shedding light on this issue.
That's correct. I'm not a person that knows, I'm dyslexic, so I don't read legal documents well. That's not my strong point, and I recognize that. So I'm not the type of person that's going to go join the union or start reading through all our documents and try to start changing our protocols or changing whatever needs to happen that way. I recognize that's not a skill I have. However, I am an artist, and what I chose to do was, my hope was that I could every day flood social media with, a face of a first responder and talk about an issue and start to just create awareness in hopes that, other people that maybe do have some of those skills necessary to facilitate change would feel the call to do that, because we need to participate in our own healing as a profession. I don't believe that, one person can't do it all. And we need to stop thinking that someone else is going to come in and fix our problems for us.
Yeah, for sure. We need, I've said that too, we need to take some responsibility, like you said, for our own well-being. And a lot of us, including me, I was not good at that. I was horrible at that while I was working as a paramedic. I didn't take care of myself well at all. Right.
Well, it's easy to let yourself slide because everything else seems like a priority, and we somehow, not only as individuals, but as a society, we seem to think it's okay to neglect ourselves.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're right. So when you wanted to do this and you were going to start doing this, how did you pick first responders you were going to paint, or who you were going to paint?
I didn't know if anyone would help me out, really. So I was prepared that if I started this, if it had to be 100 pictures of myself, that was what it was going to be.
Yeah.
But I just put out a little thing on social media saying, hey, I'm painting paramedics. It doesn't mean you have to support or agree with the cause that I'm trying to speak out about. It doesn't mean that you're, participating in what I'm doing. I'm just painting paramedics. So I just need faces of people who are willing to submit a photo. And I had a really great response. People from all over the world, actually. Like most English-speaking countries, I've had, even some non-English-speaking countries, I've had people either submitting photos or just reaching out to me and wanting to speak or share their story or express gratitude for kind of undertaking this project or for speaking out against big companies that are running us to
Yeah, no, for sure. Now, how did that, I know when I first started doing the podcast and I would get messages from people that A, I didn't know, and B, they were far away. It was just so odd. It was good. But I mean, how did that make you feel when you started getting that kind of response?
Humbled and grateful for sure. It definitely also put a weight of responsibility on me that it probably helped me not quit during the undertaking.
Yeah, you have to follow through now.
Yeah. I think the one that blew my mind the most, it was just something little, but I was having trouble with some of the music I was using. For the first 70 days, I did videos of the creation process, but then whatever I was using to create the little videos of me painting stopped working. Early on, I was having trouble with the music, and I had just wrote, oh, sorry, today's video doesn't have music because of whatever reason. And almost instantly, this person from Ireland sent me, another paramedic sent me a little, blurb of music that I could use on my videos. Because, paramedics, I've learned, definitely always seem to have multiple talents. It's not just EMS. So this was a musician, and it was just, as soon as I had put it out, within a minute, a person from across the globe was sending me music, and it just kind of blew my mind.
That's crazy. That's awesome. Nice. And so you had this big response of people obviously sending you pictures and wanting to be a part. How has the response been from the community or from the media about picking up on this issue?
Generally positive. I've only had a couple of paramedics kind of seem a little bit angry with me or be quite critical. And that's okay too. There's never going to be anything that you try to do where everyone's on board or everyone agrees with everything you're saying or thinking or doing. And also I think change scares a lot of people.
It does.
I think,
you're right.
I think people get quite comfortable, and the idea of upsetting their day-to-day life in any way, even if, the end result would mean a better lifestyle for them or, a happier lifestyle or better outcomes for their patients or whatever, facilitating that change seems scary. So, the couple times that the people had kind of reached out in anger towards me, I definitely understood. Yeah. But as a whole, there's just been so much appreciation and so much gratitude and so many new connections and relationships, and it's really been a positive thing.
Has the process met your expectations?
I think it exceeded them, for sure. It also challenged me more deeply than I ever could have prepared for. I think, today was day 94.
Okay.
So I am almost done.
Almost done.
But, I have wanted to quit so many times. I think looking into a face of another first responder for hours at a time every day, and then having, now 94 portraits of paramedics in my home at the moment, staring at me all the time. There's times where it definitely is very overwhelming, more than I anticipated it would be.
Yeah.
It's also absolutely exhausting, like trying to force yourself to be creative every single day and not taking a day off. Like I've gone over Christmas. I've had a surgery during this time.
Yeah, I saw pictures of that. Yeah.
We lost a friend from suicide.
Yeah.
And we lost him. We buried him. His fiance came to live with me for a little while. So we were caring for her, and just like a lot of stuff happened.
Wow.
And I didn't quit. I kept going, and it was not easy.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. How long does it take you to do one portrait?
It's a funny question. I would say that's the most common question I get asked, but I can't answer it properly because sometimes I sit down and every stroke is perfect and, in like 2 hours it's done. Other ones, like, their face starts to warp and I have to work over it over and over and sometimes just settle with how it looks because time is a factor. I haven't been able. They're not all as perfect as I would like. They're very tiny. They're only like 5x7. So right. I did that for speed as well as economic factors for
right.
price.
Well, yeah.
The cost of the canvases has already put me at, I'm close to $2,000 into this project.
Wow.
But yeah, so the tininess, sometimes the detail is impossible or people have sent me really crappy photos with poor lighting or they're far away and
yeah.
blurry and I can't see and I'm like, oh, I gotta do something. So some, up to 2 hours, but there's ones that I've put 14 hours into as well. So.
Holy smokes. Yeah, and I've watched some of those videos and I gotta say, it's the same thing that I say to Teresa whenever I talk to her. It's when you watch somebody who is a master at what they're doing, when you actually watch them do it, it's there's probably not even words for it, but it's amazing to watch people do something that they're really good at.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very captivating. Like I'm in awe of it, just because I know that I did not hone my skills artistically. I didn't, when I was younger, I didn't draw as much as I should have, and it's just, when I see somebody who's really good at it, and I know it just doesn't come. It takes a lot of hard work and practice. It's just, it's amazing. It's cool to watch.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I also enjoy watching. That's why I had done the videos initially. I wish I could have followed through for the full 100, but I've always enjoyed watching other people create in whatever means that is, not just painting. I am obviously drawn towards painting. I love watching other people work and to see how their mind works almost. It almost seems like magic. But it definitely took a ton of time. Like there was a long period where I felt very frustrated because I knew what I wanted to create or to visualize, and it wasn't coming out the way I wanted. Yeah. And it could be a very frustrating process.
Right. If people want to see this process, how can they connect with what you're doing on social media?
So my biggest means of social media are definitely Facebook and Instagram.
Okay. So
Naomi Fox Art on either, so NaomiFox and then ART. I also have a Twitter, but I don't really understand Twitter. I'm not very good at it. I keep it updated, but I think I only have 17 friends. I don't
Yeah, I know what that's like, for sure. Yeah.
It's not my niche. And I also have a website, naomifox.ca.
Oh, cool. Perfect. Definitely, if anybody's listening, please check that out because it's really, really cool. So, you're almost done. You're at day 94, so there's only 6 days left. So, yeah, I know, eh? What are your plans, like, after this?
Well, this has occupied 3 months of my life.
Yeah.
I'm getting ready to go back to work. I was cleared for work, light duties to start yesterday, so they're going to send me back anytime.
Okay. How do you feel about that?
Pardon?
How do you feel about that?
So I've had 2 hip surgeries. I've also had a wrist surgery. And recently my PTSD has been quite bad, probably because I'm getting ready to go back to work. I think a lot of things that were not dealt with are surfacing.
Yeah.
I personally don't feel ready, but it's not really my choice. I also don't know, honestly, if I'm going to lose my job when I go back to work. So I might only, get to work for a day, because there's definitely been some things that I've done through this project that have made me a target.
You've been outspoken and probably said some things that they would not want to hear.
Right. And
yeah.
There's a couple of times that I have been made aware that I may have crossed a line. So I don't know if I have a job to go back to, but we'll find out.
Well, you know what? Here's what corporations need to learn. And if your employer is listening, I want you to hear this. We all have work to do. And it is true that as much as I would have liked my employer to be better, to have reacted better when I asked for help, as much as employers need to catch up, it's not instant. It's not going to happen instantaneously, but the corporations and employers just need to keep working. They need to keep learning, keep working.
Right.
And, we know they're not there yet, but they can be. They can get there.
Absolutely. And the thing that I would hope they would see about me as an employee is that, not that I'm trying to cause some big upheaval against them.
Right.
What I hope is that they see my love and dedication for this profession. The last 3 months I didn't have to work. I was recovering from surgery. I should have just been resting, but I fully gave myself to trying to make our profession a better place. And I believe that makes me a very valuable employee, and I hope that's what they see.
Well, that's what they should see. And, yeah, I hope they do as well, because that is certainly the case. Someone like you is highly valuable to have as an employee. Someone who gets it, someone who knows the pitfalls, could maybe teach others how not to fall in them, and maybe how to take better care of themselves. Like, you are, whether you want to do this or not, you are a very valuable tool that could be used to get us where we need to be.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And that's what I hope, that's what I would like to be. I mean, I have, the one thing that I kind of see within my own company that I work for is they only seem to hire people into positions of authority or positions where change can be created, where these people all have the same degree. They all have been almost groomed from within, and they all have seem to have the same way of thinking. And maybe we need to sometimes put creative people or different people that view things a little bit different into positions that can make a difference.
Absolutely,
so that maybe we start going about things in a different way, because what we're doing isn't working.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's not. And until we can say that we're not losing more first responders to suicide, or there aren't people who feel they can't speak up when they are struggling, until that day happens, we have to keep working as individuals, as first responders, and as employers and government agencies. We all have different work, but work to do.
Absolutely. And I think that the responsibility also doesn't fall, it doesn't fall away from anyone.
That's right.
Because ambulances and, the ambulance is an essential service. And we never know when we or, a loved one is going to require that service. And I believe that when it is you or your loved one that needs help, you're going to want people that prepared and educated and rested and taken care of and on the top of their game looking after you in your time of need. So if we are being worn down to the point of exhaustion, to the point where we become more susceptible to those deep injuries, such as PTSD, then it becomes everyone's problem because we have to take care of the caregivers.
Absolutely. It's a human problem. It's not, originally it was brought in, we talked about this in regards to the military, but it's not a military problem. It's not a political problem. It's, it's not one sector. It's a human issue. Of course, I talk mostly about first responders because that's my experience and that's your experience as well. But yeah, this is a human issue that, we all have to work towards trying to fix this.
Absolutely.
So, all right, Naomi, if there is somebody listening right now that is struggling, what would you say to them?
My biggest message to them is that things will get better and that, whatever you need to cling on to stay alive just one more day, if it's as silly as like the next episode on a Netflix show, or you're concerned about who's going to look after your dog, or whatever you need to do to just make it one more day, then do that. Because, there's, in our darkest times, we have trouble seeing hope sometimes. And I think we just need to do whatever we can to just push past that deep, lonely place. Reach out, call a friend, even if you can't say the words. Something that me and my friends recently have had to do was we decided to create a scale. So we, depending on how happy you are or how your wellness is doing, we kind of rate it on 1 to 10. So we kind of give each other unit contacts, and we kind of joke about it or whatever. And, if you're a 1, okay. If you're a 10, good. But if you're in the negative scale, if you're a -2, then you're starting to have some of those suicidal thoughts or self-harm, all the way up to -10, which is, it's probably going to happen right now. And it allows for this system to communicate what you need to when it's really hard to find the words. And we know when we need to be there for each other.
Thank you for those words. Naomi, this has been awesome. It's been a treat for me to learn about you, and because I had just seen, obviously just seen your stuff on social media. It's been awesome. And if there's anything that we can ever do, if you're into a new project or just let us know how you're doing, please let us know.
I could talk forever. I'd love to chat again or come back on the show in the future. So thank you so much for having me and for taking time to talk and listen to me.
Oh, it's been my pleasure, totally. And, please take care of yourself and your family. And I wish you nothing but good things. And thank you for your work.
Thanks, Sean.
My pleasure.
Now my shift is finally over. I gotta deal with what's mine.
Since we chatted with Naomi, she'd like you to know that the last portrait was completed on February 9th, 2018. And as I'm sure you all can imagine, she does have a sense of relief now that it's done. She says that the project really did push her to her limits and has taken actually quite a while for her to recover from the stress that the process put on her and everybody around her. So congratulations to her for getting through this and for completing it and doing it. She has since returned to working light duties, and she says that she feels great to be back in uniform. So that's awesome. She still deals with a little bit of pain, but she's very grateful for the progress that she made. So I hope you enjoyed our chat. I really liked it. It was great getting to know Naomi and what she's doing. I'm sure we're going to hear more from her in the future. So as I said, thank you very much for listening. Without you, we wouldn't be here. Please take an extra second before you go on with your day to share the episode if you feel like doing that. Certainly leave some comments, some feedback. Rate the podcast, please. Makes a huge difference. Also, as you're aware, over the last few episodes, I've been telling you about our Facebook page contest. So, as soon as we get up to 1,000 likes, and I think we're up to 760-ish or so, I could be wrong, but as soon as we get to 1,000 likes, we're going to do a random draw from all 1,000 names, and we're going to give away 5 Temacontra Memorial Trust swag bags. They'll be awesome. We're still figuring out what's going to be in them, but I can tell you it's going to be great. So, what we need you to do is if you already like our page, then please share it. That would be awesome. As you're still in on this draw, you're good to go. And if you're listening to the podcast and you haven't gone over and liked our page yet, please do so. And then you're good to go. So that's all we need you to do. You're going to see another episode next week, believe it or not. And what this is going to be is it's going to be called a Tematalk side chat. So oftentimes there are stories that I want to tell that don't fall into the normal rotation of what we're doing, or because of the timeliness of them, they need to go outside of the regular rotation. When that happens, I'm going to put out an episode called Side Chats. And as I said, they'll fall outside the normal rotation, so you don't have to worry. Every 2 weeks, you're still going to get your normal dose of Tematalks. But every once in a while, you're going to get an extra one. So that first one is going to come next week. I'm not going to tell you what it's about yet. But actually, if you've been on my social media, on the Tematalk social media, you're going to know what it is anyway. So, it's going to be awesome. It's a great event, if you want to call it that, coming up. And we need to get that word out. So, look for that next week. I'll give you a heads up if I can. And other than that, have a great Easter weekend, if you celebrate Easter. If not, have a great weekend anyway. And until we chat again, please take care of yourself and each other. More love, less judgment.
'Cause we ain't superheroes, we're just ordinary people trying to make a difference and the first on every scene. And it's a heavy, heavy burden to carry all this hurting when you can't unsee the things you've seen. It keeps going on. When those sirens are gone, it keeps going on. When those sirens are gone.